Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about maternity clips, top 7 reasons why I think they're a fantastic idea, and how to do them. So let's get started. Okay, I hope everybody can see okay. For this project, really all you need is a pair of clippers. I like these Lister Star clippers. You don't have to have this kind, any kind of work, and for this I use a 10 blade. Before I get started, I have had questions. Does giving the maternity clip make the does cold? People don't like to take off any hair this time of year, and that's understandable. But I've never had a problem. It seems like they have so much body hair that just taking off some in the back here, it's not going to affect their ability to keep warm or anything like that. So before we get started, let me talk about one reason I really like to do the udder clips, especially on the first fresheners, is because I've spent a lot of time planning out these breedings and trying to improve memories. So I find it very exciting when hard work finally starts to pay off and I finally get to see some developing udder back here, which is a little bit tricky to do if there's a lot of hair in the way. So that's the number one reason, or one reason why I like maternity clips of our 7. Another reason is, and before we get started, I'll show you this. There's a lot of long hair here, all down the legs, all on the tail. And once your doe kids, this is going to be a hot mess back here. There's going to be goo, and there's going to be amniotic fluid, and there's going to be all sorts of things. And all that's going to stick to this hair. And there's nothing harder than trying to trim up a tail for a show with dried goo stuck in there. So we're going to trim up all along her tail. We're going to trim up the long hair down the back of her legs, and she's a little ticklish. She doesn't quite like that. And then once we get that far, I'll talk about a couple more reasons why I do this and show you how it's done from there. Okay, so at this point, I've just done the back of her legs where the longest hair is. I've done up the sides, up here to the vulva, and I've done her tail. I just do both sides. I leave the little tuft on the end, just like you would if you were doing a show clip. Because show season's not that far away, and sometimes it takes a while for this to grow back. So I just leave it like that, and I shave up here, and we've got to this point right here. So now I'll talk about a little bit more why I shave up in the top and how we do that part. Okay, now that Emu's shaved up a little bit, I want to show you how far up I shaved, which I shaved up just not quite to her hips. Her hips are right here, so about halfway down her rump. And the reason I did that is because does have 2 ligaments that run on either side of their tail. Feels about like a pencil lead, and if you poke on there this time of year, they're going to be hard, and you're going to definitely feel it's like a bone. See how my finger wants to roll over it? That's a bone right there. Well, it feels like a bone. It's not. It's a ligament. And when they're in active labor, that softens to the point where it disappears. And then if you've got your doe shaved like this, you can see almost a hollow on either side of her dorsal process. And that way, at a glance, I can tell from across the barn if this doe is getting close to kidding or not. Because once those ligaments disappear, 24 hours later, you're going to have kids. So that's another reason I like to do the maternity shave and why I do it up as far as I do, just so that I can make sure I can see this whole area back here. Notice I've also shaved, all the way down the hair that was long here. I've taken off as much on the mammary as I can. And then I've also shaved both sides of the tail and under the tail so that these hairs that would have stuck out, they don't get all covered in goo and all that kind of thing. Also, when you shave the rump like this, now I can easily see and feel her body conditioning. She's in her last 30 days of pregnancy, so she is getting ready to get into the home stretch. This is the time of the gestation where she needs about an extra 300 calories a day. So I really keep a close eye on my does this time of their pregnancy and just make sure they're not too fat or too thin. And when you do this, when you shave, you don't have to fight this hair Of course, you can still feel, but it's a lot easier just to come out here now, and you can see she's got a lot of good extra fleshing here. You want to feel at the base of their tail here is where you can really feel. You want a nice, good pad of extra flesh there, not too thin, not too much. I think Emu's just about right as she goes into this last 30 days. So I'm going to trim up the fore udder now, and I will show you after I do it why this is not ideal. Okay, we've got her all trimmed up. As you can see, I came quite far forward on the fore udder here and trimmed up all that hair. I also trimmed it up all around her teats. And the reason I did that is because it's more sanitary for milking. It's much easier now. There's a bunch of hair here and a bunch of goo. And she's been laying down. We try to keep our does up on nice clean straw. It's not always ideal conditions. It's not always possible. So this just makes it a lot easier. It's a nice clean surface now for you to wash your doe's mammary once you start milking. Kind of going along with that, if you dam raise, it's a lot cleaner for the kids as well, and they can find it a lot easier now, the teat, without all that hair hanging down. So it's a lot easier for them to grab on. It's a lot easier for you to clean these teats. And also, it's a lot more comfortable for the doe. If she has a lot of extra hair here and around her teats, and you're milking by hand or by machine, you're pulling on that extra hair. And no one likes to get their hair pulled, especially on their udder. So that makes it a lot more comfortable for her as well. Okay, so that's 7 reasons why I like to do the maternity clip. Just to recap, it helps me see the developing udders on the first fresheners. It's easier to clean the hair post-kidding around their mammary. There's not a lot of goo stuck on there. Helps me determine body condition for the doe. Helps me see her ligaments when she's going into labor. It's more comfortable for the doe with milking. You're not pulling on the hair around their teats. It's more sanitary for milking, and if you dam raise, it's more sanitary for your kids. So I want to thank Miss Emu today. I think you'll notice that she is going to be a frequent contributor to our channel. She doesn't usually mind volunteering. She's been around the block a time or two, and she's a pretty easygoing doe. I'm not so sure that she appreciated getting her udder shaved today. We'll give her a few peanuts as compensation and go put her back in her pen. But thank you for joining us. I hope this video was informational for you and that you join us again next time in the milk room.